I'm Duncan McLeod, and this is the TechCentral Show. Now, for years, the story in South African online grocery has been about speed, how quickly the van reaches your door. My guest today argues that the next shift isn't about delivery at all, but the shopping itself, cutting out the searching, scrolling, and category hopping, and letting you simply ask for what you need. Pick and Pay ASAP has switched on an AI shopping companion called Penny, built on Google's Gemini models, that builds your basket from voice, text, or a photo in your own words. Joining me to talk through what it does, what Penny does, how it works, and what it means for South African shoppers is Enrico Ferigolli, retail executive for omnichannel at Pick and Pay, and he's of course returning to the TechCentral Show. Enrico, good to see you again. Welcome.
Thank you for having me today, Duncan. I'm very excited to be here.
Right. Penny, where does the name come from?
Finding a name for anything, it's always a very, very difficult marketing journey, right? We wanted something short. We wanted something relatable. We wanted the name, of a person somehow, and we wanted something that starts with a P because of Pick and Pay and how it, the alliteration works. So after a lot of brainstorming, we ended up on the name Penny. And then when we started, a name is just a name until you start visualizing it. And over the last couple of weeks, we started putting a face to it. And it really, really grew on me. But it's always, okay. I've started a few businesses in my life, and choosing the name, always the most difficult thing to do.
Yeah. As soon as I heard the name, I immediately thought, of course, of Big Bang Theory and Sheldon Cooper knocking on his neighbor's door, Penny. But take me through Penny. What does she do? What is it? Is it exactly that you are launching here?
Yeah, absolutely. So from Monday next week, what we are launching is conversational shopping. So over the last couple of years, we've been toying with the idea of how do we go beyond the search and scroll journey, right, to something where you can, with voice or with words, you can, quickly get dinner for tonight, quickly get your shopping list sorted, or ask for a meal plan, things like that. And over the last, I would say 6 months, we've seen a tremendous improvement in the way that AI tools, or large language models really, execute that. So what we're launching next week or Monday is a pure conversation shopping interface. So customers can ask a question to Penny like, Penny, I need to cook a carbonara tonight. What is the recipe for it? And give me all the ingredients that I should order. And what Penny does, it gives you a nice simple recipe to follow through, but it also gives you, for each component of the recipe, will give a nice carousel of all the spaghetti options we have, all of the pecorino options we have, all of the bacon bits we have. So it gives you a very nice way to go through that recipe one item at a time. It allows you to speak to her, so you can ask her a whole lot of questions like, I want to make dinner for 4 Thai below 500 Rand. I can ask her to reorder my previous order. I can ask her to reorder the previous order that I usually order when I order for a braai. And you will go through and try to find when do I order meat and what do I order when I order meat with. So it's really, really exciting. The one feature I really love the most in my family, we have a shopping list that we write down, and we have it in the kitchen, right? And we all add, myself, my wife, we all add to it. Sometimes the kids go and add something to it. The beauty of what we're launching is that it's multimodal. It's a multimodal tool. So you can write, you can voice note, but you can also take a picture. And the other day I played this really cool game. I wrote that shopping list entirely in Italian. And then I took a picture. I didn't say anything to Penny, and Penny understood that it was a shopping list, translated from Italian to English, and then showed me one carousel of products for each of those items, which I think it's super exciting. This is just the first kind of version of it. There's going to be a lot of improvements over time. It's not perfect yet, but I think, we got to a point where we were like, this is good enough to launch. Let's get it out. Let's see what people think, and let's continue improve on it as we go along.
Okay, so take me through the actual way it's going to work practically. Let's say I fire up the ASAP app. I presume it's baked into the ASAP app, and it's not a separate app. Is that right?
Absolutely. So when you fire up, yes.
Sorry, I was just asking, if you fire up the app, what can consumers expect from Monday?
Absolutely. So on Monday, on the top part of the screen, next to the search bar, there will be an Ask button. And when you click on the Ask button, you'll enter the Penny journey, and Penny will ask you, what can I help you with today? There's a set of pre-built prompts, like find this product for me, kids' lunch boxes, meals on a budget. There's a few prompts that you can start with, but all you have to do is to type, is to send a voice note or send a picture, and you'll start a conversation with Penny. It's integrated directly into the app, so you don't need a separate app or things like that. It uses some of the feature that you as a customer use, like search, your ability to retrieve smart shopper points, things like that make the shopping experience extremely seamless. You can ask her to add item to the cart. You can ask them to go to the cart. You can ask them to delete items. So it's a very, very nice interface to make shopping easier.
Okay. I mean, in theory, could I open up the app and chat with Penny with my voice and say, I need some fillet steak. I need a 2-liter bottle of milk. I need some bread. I need this, and this, and have it auto order those for me and have them delivered at a time that I specify?
Yes, absolutely. So you can do that, and you can do it also in multiple languages, which I think is quite cool. It will not place an order for you at this stage. There's elements related to credit card transaction. We're not doing that yet. I think it's something that we will potentially want to do in the future. But I think it as a customer, the part that takes time is the filling up your basket with items, and that's what we want to simplify. Then you press the button yourself to ultimately place an order.
Okay, so you'd see the list of everything and the prices next to them, so that you can just say, actually take that off, it's too expensive, and then place your order that way.
Absolutely. It will take you to the cart, and then from the cart you take over, because you may also want to change your card, select the slot, decide whether you want to use smart shopper points or not. And at this stage we think that the customer is best placed to make that decision.
And you're launching with multiple languages. How many languages are you supporting at launch?
The beauty of the system we've built is that it's backed by Gemini. So there's this kind of 3 parts that I find very, very interesting, right? So the number one is that it supports as many languages as Gemini supports, right? And the interesting part is that we're seeing how it's different between voice and texting. Texting in another language that is not English is not as good in its response, but when you send a voice note, it translates it pretty easily, actually. Then the other part is guardrails, right? I think it's, as AI evolves, so is the misuse of AI, right? And I think implementing Gemini in the back end means that all the guardrails that have been built for Gemini are built for Penny, right? Which I think it's also important. And as more ways of using Gemini comes through, that kind of starts feeding into the app. So we have a really, really good partnership with Google going, and it proved really, really successful.
There are other AI models out there that you could have worked with. Why did you choose Gemini? Why Google?
We The way we actually integrated with multiple large language model, and then we started testing them, and we found that the balance of accuracy, cost, speed, there were like 7 or 8 factors that we were looking. I guess that accuracy, speed, and cost were probably the three most important, and we found that Gemini had the best. And so we went with it, and we're very happy with it.
Okay. So if you're a Gemini user, can you connect via an API or an MCP server or something and use Gemini to do your shopping on Pick and Pay?
Not at this stage. It's definitely, I think, one of the evolutions of where I think, AI and large language model is going. I think if you look in the US, you can already, I think, order from Target through ChatGPT. There's a few elements there. But I think it's one of the reasons why this is working so well is because it's integrated into the app and it uses natively some of the features that you can use as a customer, right? So accessing a search, all the product information is already there, which wouldn't be there in Gemini and would require more work.
Okay. So you're promising voice ordering in just about any language. I can't remember how many South African languages Gemini supports. Is it all 11 at this stage, or a subset of that?
So I think when it comes to African languages, I think that the evolution that I've seen in most of the large language models, being able to correctly process those has improved dramatically over the last year. But I don't think it is at the level of other languages, but it's definitely improving, right? And there are a couple of really, really good startups that do this for the African continent. That because it actually needs that actually ecosystem of startups to build on what Gemini and all the other language models have, to actually bolt on very specific languages.
Okay. Maybe take us through from a technical perspective how it's working in the back end. Is this a conversational layer that sits on top of your search and scroll experience underneath, or is it a more tight, or is it a tighter technological integration where Gemini or the Gemini tools have direct access to your databases?
No, so Gemini doesn't have direct access to the database. The way it's built is that there are kind of 2 layers of information feeding into Penny. One is some of the critical APIs that are required for you to search based on your previous shopping history. So your order history is accessible by Penny. Some level of smart shopper, especially when it comes to points, right? So you can query how many points do you have, and the fourth one is every part of the content management system. So think of the way we lay out the app this week, because it's Springbok and there are certain occasions of all these are all the Springboks snacks that you have. All of that information also feeds in there so that it's able to answer back to certain questions. So assume it's Mother's Day, because it can access the Mother's Day occasion on the app. It can answer questions on Mother's Day gifting better. So it has access to that, and then pretty much like any other large language model has got something called a RAG, and the RAG is a repository of content that the shopping assistant can also reference when you ask some specific question, and we keep on building on that, right? We are partnering with the Springboks, so we want Penny to answer questions about the Springboks in the future, right? You can't do it today, but because you're partnering with the Springboks, why can't you tell me, when is the next Springbok match, right?
Yes.
We also starting a partnership in the next, or we started a campaign rather, with the Springbok called "What Are We Feeding Them?" Right? And eat like a champion. And there's a whole lot of recipes that we are creating with the Springboks that we will want to feed into Penny. So those are kind of the two key pieces of the integration and the underlying backend technology that feeds into Penny.
So could I fire a Penny and ask her what are your most popular specials that you have running this week, for example?
Yes, you can. I find that sometimes the answer is not perfect yet, but it definitely give you a good answer. It sometimes filters too much for what you have already ordered. So there's always some improvements. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to launch this, actually, because we need more people to use it more often to actually start seeing where the improvements are. If you use any of the large language models native apps, you'll see that the update rate is almost every second day, because every second day there is something new that you see. Oh, this answer wasn't perfect. Let's build on it. So yeah, I think it's quite exciting. I think it's in a really good place. And we will update it almost daily over the next couple of months to really see how much better can we make it for the customer.
Will it prompt you to, ask questions? For example, I'm just thinking, maybe you prefer to buy Koo baked beans rather than the Pick and Pay no-name brand version of the baked beans. And let's say the no-name version is a couple of rand cheaper. What would Penny then do? Would she automatically go for the cheaper one? Would she learn from what you've told her in the past about your preference for baked beans? Has it got that sort of level of logic in it yet?
So it's a mix. It depends how the prompt is structured, right? So if you ask for buy me the cheapest butter bean, it will just do that. If you ask, if you just have butter beans in your shopping list, it will give you a range of butter beans, right? Because ultimately what it does, it takes that word, it searches it, and basically stitches a whole bunch of searches in one carousel, right? So then in that case, it will give you multiple butter beans. In the future, there is definitely going to be a retail media layer. So the ability for our manufacturers to buy certain search terms and be advertising against those search terms, which is a piece of functionality that is already available in the rest of the app. So, if you search for coffee, you'll find some of the big manufacturers buying those terms to pretty much like Google would do or Amazon would do, right? So, that's definitely in the card. So it really depends on the prompt you give it. So customer needs to take it for a spin and let us know what they think.
It's quite exciting. You've described this, I think, as South Africa's first conversational grocery experience, if I've got that right. Your competitor in this market, Checkers 6060, has already launched something called Pixie. How do the two differ? What are you doing that maybe those guys aren't doing?
So that's an interesting question, right? Because it goes back to a bit of what's your philosophy, or what's your perspective on what's going to move the dial for the customer first, right? So there's two parts of how I think AI will change shopping. One is make shopping easier for me by giving me a interface that I can talk to ask questions. And the other part is to create a interface to reorder items that I've already ordered on a specific cadence. And we actually, fun enough, we went the two different ways, right? So what Penny is a shopping assistant. You can ask questions and you can shop with Penny. What Pixie is doing is basically replenishment of items. It's looking at your shopping history and say you haven't ordered toilet paper in 4 weeks. I think you need it. Do you need it? Over time, we will both do both, right? That's the reality, right? It's just kind of where you start. My perspective, is that starting with the conversation part is better for the customer, and that's you know me by now. That's my mantra, right? We have to do it for the customer. So I think that's what we went for.
Okay, so big picture then, Enrico, as we move to a close. What does this mean for Pick and Pay? I mean, the retail space in South Africa right now is exceptionally competitive. Everyone is trying everything to see what sticks, and there's some really innovative stuff happening in the space. Does the launch of Penny, what does it mean from a big picture financial perspective? Does it help lift your margins? Does it drive customer stickiness for Pick and Pay? Does it mean bigger baskets, more frequent orders? What does it ultimately mean?
Yeah, look, I think the first element is probably an increase in dwell time on the app, right? Because now the app is offering you more services that you may want to get. Like, you can get a recipe and you can follow the recipe, and then you're spending more time on the app, and it will definitely increase basket size and basket value. I think it's if I take a step out of just Penny, the reality is that and we discussed this in our previous conversation. 2025 was an absolutely critical year for Pick and Pay. We relaunched the front end and the back end of ASAP, and we are in a really, really strong position where we can do these type of things. And if we're going to look at what we're going to roll out over the next 3-4 months, it's substantial. We've got a really, really good plan of activities and new features that we're going to launch. And we've got the full backing of Sean and the board to really make a success out of ASAP, because this is where the growth comes from, right? And I think we are a little bit behind, and I think with the technology that we're putting together and the operations that we're putting together, we are going to get ahead really, really fast.
Good. Well, it's good to hear that fighting spirit from Pick and Pay. It can only mean good things for us as consumers if the big retail giants are fighting to innovate. And good to see that Pick and Pay, which I know has been through the wars in the last few years, is doing some really cool stuff on the innovation side of things. Enrico Ferigolli is retail executive for omnichannel at Pick and Pay. Always great to chat to you, Enrico, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Duncan. Have a good day.